Hello, everyone, and welcome to D2C Dialogues. Today, we have with us Mr. Gaurav Singh Kushwaha, co-founder and CEO, BlueStone. BlueStone, founded in Bangalore in 2011 by Gaurav Singh Kushwaha, is one of the India's largest digital-first fine jewelry brands. The culmination of a rapidly evolving consumer preference to shop online and the legacy jewelry industry's low digital adoption, the trusted brand is synonymous with modernity and digitization. BlueStone has revolutionized the jewelry space by creating an endless aisle online with 170 odds to experiential stores offline, delivering a seamless omni-channel journey for cosmopolitan couples. Their proprietary tech stack enables consumers to tailor their preferences into the journey from design to delivery, making it possible for BlueStone to be a part of their momentous milestones online, in-store, or from the comfort of their homes. The 100% certified jewelry designs come with lifetime exchange and buyback and range across gold, platinum, diamonds, and gemstones, ensuring something to suit every mood, moment, and budget. With this, it's my pleasure to welcome Gaurav, co-founder and CEO of BlueStone. Welcome to D2C Dialogues, Gaurav.
Thank you, Hitesh, for the opportunity. Really excited to be here.
Thank you. The first question that came in my mind is, as a co-founder and CEO of BlueStone, what was the key factor that influenced your decision to transition into fine jewelry after having success with Chakpak and also the category?
Right. So I was running Chakpak, which was into social networking space, and it was so we very quickly grew to around 2 to 3 million users in just 2 to 3 years, and we sold it to Flipkart, and I moved out of it. And then the next logical thing that I saw, and in fact the behavioral shift that I was seeing in the market was that a lot of categories were moving online to different extents. So books was moving much faster than many other categories which are higher ticket and so on. So I looked around at the categories where there can be an interesting play, where online can play an interesting role, and the categories which are also differentiated enough to build an independent and a large company. So when I looked at that, I noticed that jewelry in India is a huge category. The TAM is especially huge. A lot of fragmented players. So there was definitely a scope of consolidation also. And then online was not something that was already mastered by someone. So with coupled with all these learnings, I decided to take a plunge in this category.
So you found a gap in the market. Online was not that famous, but the question still arises, and that is, jewelry being the category that it is, did you not have the apprehensions that, it's not an apparel category, or it's not XYZ, which is a small, unit item, small price item. Jewelry is something which Indian women, or even men for that matter, want to touch and feel and experience. And what was your confidence level at that time? I understand that nobody was there in the digital space as far as jewelry is concerned, but I'm talking from a business sense.
Sure. So you're right. In fact, even apparel had not moved online to a large extent at that time. If you remember 2011, when a lot of people are trying to convince consumers to actually start trying out apparel and a lot of these high touch categories online. And we also believe that it's going to be a long journey when a good percentage of people start buying it online. But given the size of the market, which is almost 80 billion US dollars, if you do some back of the envelope math, even if 1 to 2% of it moves online, let's say, so the behavioral shift does not happen. But some people who are just very, very comfortable browsing online, shopping online, and so on, even if they move online, that actually still results in a billion plus top line category or a top line company. So those were the thoughts, and we were super confident that let's say a few percentage point, even in low single digit, would definitely move online. However, as we moved on, we had our own learnings. We realized that people were super comfortable browsing jewelry online, and this is an experience which is lacking in the offline world. So if you look at any other category, If you look at shoes, if you look at apparel, etc., people these days go to Zara, goes to Lifestyle, Shoppers Stop, and large format retailers, and do a lot of browsing before they make a purchase. But in jewelry, that's not the case. You generally go to a jeweler to just buy, not to browse. Now, because offline lagged the entire browsing experience so much, as soon as we gave a quality offering online, people started browsing online a lot. But given the nature of the category, we were able to convert a relatively small percentage of that into business in a pure online fashion. And which is where we also evolved. So from 2012 to 2015-16, we were very sure that creating an online only brand is the way to go. But around 2016 or so, it started becoming very evident to us that omni-channel is a much, much bigger play. While online is going to grow at a very good pace, omni-channel is just an even bigger opportunity. And that's how we kind of morphed in. So we also learned and what we thought in 2012 and what we think today is very, very different.
Very different. Just before we go to the omni-channel and the offline part, can you share some insights on how did BlueStone become the first online jewelry store? The insights in terms of the learnings, because you said 80 billion was the market, but even you were new. The market, the customer was not accustomed to or never had experienced an online buying experience vis-a-vis jewelry. So but you were also new.
So we did few things. So we learned by first principles. We had no prior experience in jewelry or in retail also. So just fresh, we could all, the experience we had was in building websites and kind of getting online marketing, online website, and creating a very high quality online presence. So we applied all those tenets to jewelry. And like I said, we learned from first principles. So I looked around. We noticed that the consumers which are comfortable buying online, not just jewelry, but any stuff, were largely in the age group of 25 to 35 at that time. Now it's much broader. But at that time, it was still relatively younger. And it was less than 25 also, but less than 25 were not our buyers. Young girls, college girls don't buy that much of fine jewelry, gold and diamond, which let's say newly married and women who are a certain age, they buy. So from our lens, our TG kind of stopped at around 25 to 35. We also saw that they are kind of fashion forward. So they are not looking for the very traditional ornaments, etc., which almost every other jeweler in the country is providing anyways. So in terms of our design language, we chose a design language which would cater to that TG. We noticed a lot of other things also, since online is not something that anyone had tried seriously. The skill set and the ability to actually present a very beautiful catalog online was not there. So product photography, etc., was not cracked for this category. We looked around and almost everyone had like very bad photos on their website. Photos so bad that no one would actually go to second or third product page. So that was another problem that we had solved, and we used a lot of technology there. We used 3D rendering, 3D modeling, and a lot of other stuff also, which would actually create a quality image and quality digital assets. See, in offline world also, you would have seen it's very important to present the product very beautifully, right? And in the with the right light, with the right angles, and so on. I'm saying all that is even more important in online, because in online, all you have is photos and videos. There's no physical product when someone is browsing, when someone is making up her mind. So that was the innovation. Another thing we realized was that as that's one of the strengths of online is to provide a wide catalog. Now, inventory comes in the way of wide catalog, whether it's offline or whether it's online. So we had set up our own manufacturing also in just 1 year after starting, so that we could enable just-in-time manufacturing. I think it's a dream of a lot of retailers, a lot of businesses, to have just-in-time manufacturing kind of a model to keep it inventory light and to be very responsive to the changing trends. So that is something that we had set up back in 2013-14 itself. So since then we are running our own, we run our own factories, we have our own design teams and so on. Because of all these things, we wanted to be kind of very tight and sharp on almost all these aspects. So these were the things that we had created for online, and which were kind of very, very different. We had created almost all the functions.
So here is an entrepreneur who has just ventured into a business with no category experience of jewelry nor a retail experience. But you said you did have that digital exposure in your previous stints in your career. The TG that you targeted was 25 to 35. you had got a wide catalog, you got solutions for your photographs, high quality photographs, 3D rendering, so on and so forth. Started your own manufacturing, just in time inventory. I think these were the founding pillars for creating an online jewelry store, a successful jewelry one, a store. But what was the differentiation at that time, which you could compete against? Because still people even today, as you rightly mentioned, that even a fraction of people, if they could come online and buy, then we could have got a huge market share. But what was your major differentiation from a BlueStone brand perspective?
So, okay, so brand was not strong. In fact, brand was not the reason why people were also buying from us, is what we had realized. And that is something that is still, we still have a long way to go in terms of building brand. I would say we are doing, we are doing phenomenal business, but that is despite the fact that the brand is still not as strong as it can potentially be. So in those early days, the reason, so the differentiation, now you'll have to look at the differentiation from the lens of the consumer, right? Not from the lens of, let's say, businesses. From the lens of consumers, none of the offline jewelry brands had a website, and I'm saying quality website. So the brands might be strong, but if that particular customer is more comfortable, let's say, first looking at the offerings online, there was no way that person could do it for any other jewelry player in the country. Right? Those are more like marketing websites that, okay, these are our policies, these are our stores. Almost everyone had that kind of website, not a website where someone could experience the products. So ours was the only experiential website for that matter. I don't think anyone understood the strength of search engine optimization, search engine marketing, and a lot of those things wherein you can actually pull in people and start doing real business there. Jewelers, I think almost everyone was a non-believer, so they were creating their websites, etc. also with that basic belief, and hence there was no focus on commerce. So we were the only ones who were focusing on commerce also. And people who bought from us for first 3 to 4 years, almost 85 to 90% of them said that they bought because they just love the design, not because they love the brand, not because.
So you had the first mover advantage.
We did.
Okay, that was nice. When did you realize that now is the time that we should change gears and move from online to offline? Sure. What was that time, and what made you take this decision?
Yes, so that was around 2015, 2016. We spoke to a lot of our customers. We generally do that. We do that almost every year. We spoke to a lot of buyers and asked them why did you buy from BlueStone, and reasons to buy. So almost 85% of them said we bought because the design. We love the design so much that I love the design so much that I had to add it. Almost 9% people said choices. We had so many choices that we could go through, and 3% said price, 1% said convenience. Right, so which was kind of very, very different from when if Amazon or Flipkart would do the same survey, where the price and convenience together would be 90% plus. So we were very clear that's a brand game. Now the even more interesting survey or question was the question that you posed to non-buyers who exhibited very similar behavior to the buyers on the portal. So someone who had spent almost the same amount of time, someone who had almost shortlisted almost the same amount of products, did everything same like a typical buyer, but did not end up buying. So we asked them, why did you not buy? So even before that, almost all of them said that the designs, we just love the designs, which was something that the buyers had also said. But in terms of barriers to buy, the number one barrier was touch and feel. How can we buy something so expensive without touching and feeling it? Second was, let's say a few years down the line, if something goes wrong with the product, if it requires a minor repair, polish, or anything, where do I go? And number three was, let's say down the road, if I want to exchange this product for a different design, how do I do that? Now, these were all very, very common behaviors. These are very common behaviors in the industry. And the interesting thing was that the ratio of these buyers to non-buyers was in the tune of 1:20 or 1:30. Right. So for every one buyer, there were 20 to 30 who who would have bought
if you had given this
or
service.
if only we had solved those problems.
Okay.
Right. So which told us that and so these couple of surveys told us that the pull of online is very strong. But the ability to actually convert that pull and all that browsing and all that love into sale is something where offline potentially is stronger. So both the channels have their strengths. And the magic would happen if both of them kind of come together, which is when the omni-channel journey started with that survey, with that data, and with that hypothesis.
And then the magic happened.
And then the magic happened.
Now, my question here is the most important part for any consumer to go to a jewelry store and buy that jewelry from that store is trust. How could you, create that trust being a new brand, in the market?
It's a very difficult thing to kind of tackle head on. It's just, if you go out and shout that trust me, trust me, trust me, people will start doubting you even more. So you can't do that. You must not do that. I think trust will get built over time. I'm not, we are with enough differentiation that we have created, we are getting very strong growth and very strong business, right? So if I solve the trust also, let's say overnight magically, we might grow 10x also from where we are. But I'm saying all that will happen. Even without that, our growth rate is actually staggering. So this is not something that I want to actively solve for or actively handle. I've thought about it, and this is the first question that I get asked almost all the time. I'm saying trust will get built over time as we do the right things for the consumers, as we have right policies, and as we under promise and over deliver. Over years, once we do that, I think trust will get built automatically. You're not looking for that magic wand to kind of build it tomorrow. And you're right, and it's very difficult for new brand, but we have been around for 10 years. In 10 more years, we'll be around for 20 years, right? So it'll not be a new brand anymore. I think these things will kind of get solved
automatically for a period of time.
Yeah, I would not go very aggressively on this.
But one testament to this is, the confidence that comes to, the brand is 170 stores. And when you started with one, so can you just tell us something about the operations, the stores and the customers and the scale, etc.?
Yeah,
designs.
Right. So we opened our first store in July of 2018. And by FY19, we had 5 stores. And by March, so by FY20, which is March 2020, we had 15 stores when the COVID hit. Right. So as we had just started our omni-channel journey, the pandemic and the lockdowns had started happening. So in between pandemic and lockdowns, we kept on opening more stores. So by March 22, we had 74. And then by March 23, we had 155. And then this year we opened 15 more. So that has been the journey. It has been an exponential rise. And that is because we're seeing tremendous success and tremendous conversion in our stores. So essentially, wherever we are opening stores, the business is increasing many folds. And hence the charter, and because the online presence is already very strong, right? And this is kind of creating a layering underneath that online presence, which is the task at hand. So faster we create, more efficient the business will become. And with that thought, we're kind of rolling it out very, very, very rapidly. For us, having started as a top-down national brand, north, south, east, west do not make any difference. We are as strong in east as we are in north. So, which is good, because otherwise I think a lot of jewelry brands struggle with that. Having started from one particular region, they find it difficult to expand to other regions because they have that regional touch to their brand.
Yes.
Which is a great enabler for that region. But for in any other region, it's so advantage in this region is a disadvantage in other regions, essentially. So
what was your strategy? Because they had a regional touch, you had a corporate touch.
We had a corporate touch, we had an online touch, right? So basically, when people, so few things that are associated with our brand is new age, online, omni-channel, contemporary design. So these are the kind of attributes that people would generally associate with our brand, which are generally very differentiated from, let's say, the kind of attributes they would assign to chain jewelers or the state or city jewelers also.
Gaurav, one thing that has come out, and I've just observed in the last 15, 20 minutes, that you are very passionate about designs. You know, that's what the USP of BlueStone is, that you have got this design. What kind of designs you have? And when I ask this question, what I mean is in terms of quantity and uniqueness and the differentiation part of it.
Sure. So essentially, the kind of designs that we have, and one key focus that we already always have, is the designs that a woman would be comfortable wearing on a normal evening outing, or normal office day, or on a normal day, and not, let's say, just for those big days like wedding, jewelry, etc. Now, the interesting part is that wedding and these big occasions used to constitute almost 80-85% of the overall jewelry consumption. So a lot of jewelers who have been around for generations, and traditional jewelers, they've largely been focused on those categories, and for right reasons, right? Those are the bread and butter, and those are the categories that made them big. But that shift is happening. So right now the shift is almost 50-50 between jewelry bought for big occasions and jewelry bought for almost everyday. For everyday wear means smaller occasion and so on. Let's not wedding, not big occasions. So, but what had happened was the focus on design in that category had not been there, because almost everyone was getting their gratification, their business from that bigger category, right? So the smaller category was more like, okay, we have few products, just choose from it. But no one had actually focused a lot on what are the kind of designs that would actually work here. What are the kind of innovations that can be done in these particular designs, right? So all that focus and love was given to the big ticket items. Right. So that is essentially we brought to the table. We said, okay, this is that those big ticket items. Yes, fine. You can wear it for once in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then it'll go sit in the locker. But every day you'd be wearing jewelry, where almost no one in the industry is focused on innovating, especially in terms of designs, etc. So our focus then had been on that. I mean, be it the kind of briefs we give to our designers, be it the kind of incentivization across the structures, be it the kind of data we crunch to figure out what's working, what's not working. But this is the category that we operate in. The jewelry that bracelet that you would be comfortable wearing, let's say, even to gym, right? And
okay. A related, question to the design part is then comes the testing part. And, you had mentioned the importance of A/B testing and defining metrics before testing to keep biases at bay. Could you share some of the valuable insights that you have, gained through this process at BlueStone?
Right. So, okay. So data, being an online first company, data runs at the core of everything that we do. So almost all the designs that are launched in the very early days, we test all those online. We see the performance, how many people are actually clicking on one design vis-a-vis other design, how many people are proceeding with the entire checkout flow for that particular design, and how is that behavior different from region A to region B. Right. So all these things we measure very, very aggressively for a design as it is launched, and we already know where this design is going to land even before we stock it in, let's say, so many stores. Right. So a lot of these insights are generated, are acted upon, which actually make it very, very sharp for us, very less error. So while it also allows us to be experimental at the time of creating the designs, because we know that at a later stage there would be data to actually guide us if that experiment was successful or failure. If you don't have enough data, then you cannot be experimental. It's like you'll have to go the tried and tested route, and then you'll end up creating the same designs that have been created over 20, 30, 40 years.
You have done many innovations, Gaurav. One of them is BlueStone's try-at-home service.
Yeah.
Now, the banking industry and the other industries had no personalized banking and bankers coming to your house, etc. What is this concept of try-at-home, and how has it, been received by the customer?
Sure. So, one of the things that we noticed was that jewelers would encourage or would enable, let's say, home trials for very high value customers, etc. And that was not something that was very new to the category. right? So jewelers typically would have very strong relationship with their patrons, and for some of those with whom they have very deep relationship, they would even take jewelry to their home, and they would actually go through those pieces and then pick few and so on. So that experience was there, I think, but that was there for very select few. It was not there for masses, etc. So, and the idea was that we want to create, we want to give uh, that experience, the experience that is generally available to only, let's say, HNIs and high value customers. We want to kind of create that experience for masses also. And online actually allows us to do it, right? So because when I'm doing try at home, I can actually roll it out like a process, and not like someone just calls and how are you doing today? Acha sa karta hu, aa jata hu types. Not that kind of, right? So we noticed some of that experience being already available to select few, decided that okay, that means that there is merit in this experience. People do like this experience. How about we take it to masses? How about we make it available to a person who is not who's looking to buy something for 40, 50,000, 1 lakh, and not necessarily, let's say, 1 crore and 2 crores.
Now, the last leg of our interview, Gaurav, you had mentioned that the first round of scale should happen online, and offline should not cross your mind, initially. So there is no such formula as such, but does this premise even stand today? Because I'm talking about 2011 when you started, and in a couple of years you went offline. But today, everybody, every D2C brand who starts online, has an offline plan already ready. So why did you say that you should first concentrate only on online and then subsequently move offline?
Sure. So see, we should then first of all look at the genesis of D2C. Why D2C and what is D2C? It's not that consumer brands have not been around, have never been created in last 50, 60, 70 years, right? And there are more and more new consumer brands that have been coming along. Be it in let's say less in 80s, but 90s to then last 2, 3 decades also. And what had changed and why the term D2C now, let's say, rather than in 2001. Okay, so almost if you look at a lot of those brands that got created, those are so okay. So in the offline only world, when there was no internet, the distribution of any new product that you've created was very, very tricky for a company which is new, which is not cracked distribution. So let's say you have created a great shampoo, but whether that shampoo is great or not wouldn't even matter if you cannot crack the distribution, right? So almost entire focus of a company which is of a newly created brand under a new company would go towards distributing that, so much so that the product innovation would take a back seat. It's like if you have cracked distribution, you can push anything in that distribution.
Yeah,
there's no need to innovate on product, or at least the incentive to innovate on product is lower, because distribution is the key. So you just keep pushing one product after the other, as many of the biggies or most big FMCG companies do, right? Their strength is distribution. Product is something that rides on top of that distribution. And it had largely been like that for a very long time. So let's say if you have distribution, there's no point innovating on the product, or the incentive to innovate on product is low. If you don't have distribution, then what would you even do after innovating on product? You'll not be able to distribute it anyways. So the new brands being created by a new company was very rare. And there have been cases of that, but it was very rare where people had actually been able to crack both product and distribution at the same time. Very few phenomenal entrepreneurs have done that. Now with internet, what had happened was it actually gave you direct access to consumers. Albeit the scale is limited, but you have direct access to consumers. So essentially what happens is, let's say, okay, even if you're creating a new product, which can technically appeal to, let's say, 100 people, and eventually it'll have 100 units of sale, at least 6 to 8 or 10 of those can potentially come directly online. And for that, you don't need to tap into that distribution, the offline distribution. You don't have to crack that offline distribution in the first leg itself. Okay, you can directly send it to the customers. You can actually iterate on your product. Hardly any product is perfect in the first version. People have to iterate, right? So let's say, which is much easier in online world, because you don't have to actually sit on a huge piles of inventory, which in offline world you'd have to do. So you had internet, you had aggregated demand, and you had the ability to actually talk to your consumers, which is not there in the offline world. You would actually be talking to retailers, not the end consumers. So your ability to iterate on that product and fix that product or make that product even better, these three things were enabled by internet. And essentially that's what gave rise to D2C. And I'm saying let's be very clear that these three things are very, very important, even if eventually. So what happens in a fully baked company, you see that online is only 10% of it and offline is now 90%.
Yeah.
Or let's say 20 and 80. That
Yes.
online, and hence a new person entering thinks that, okay, online only has a 20% role to play. That's not the case. Online is the enabler. Online is what grew it from 0 to 6. In a fully mature, fully grown, you don't see that. But that doesn't mean that online was not important or offline was important. Actually, online was almost 100% contribution was of online in lifting that company to its feet. It's only when it started running that offline came into the play.
The whole groundwork was done by online, you mean to say?
It's like first infant and toddler years, you only need online. And once you are kind of a little, let's say 6 or 8 years old, and you start to kind of compete to run and so on, then you need offline. It's what
So here is an advice from Gaurav, and we'll come to that final point of that advice. Before that, the two questions that I want to ask. One is, in your view, where is the jewelry industry in India going today? And the second one is, how will the definition of BlueStone that you had envisaged 11 years, 12 years back still remain the same? So where is the industry going, and then BlueStone?
Right. So, so in terms of where is the direction in which the industry is headed, I see that the industry is headed towards consolidation, towards a branded play from a largely fragmented play that was there in terms of the kind of actors that are in the industry that are going to be there in the industry. People are getting a lot more savvy, a lot more aspirational, a lot more West looking. People want more designs, right? Gone are the days when, let's say, for 2 or 3 generations, there'd be very little innovation in design, but because you had that relationship going on for 3 generations, people would just still come and buy from you. Today's consumer, today's women, they would actually look for the best design that they can get, best offer that they can get, the best value that they can get, and most importantly, best design that they can get. So all those innovations are going to become important, and I think branded players would actually fare better there. Secondly, the strength of regional players was in keeping those relationship warm over generations. Now, what's happening is a lot of people are moving from one city to another. People, gone are the days when of joint family, when 3 generations would live in the same city, right? And when people move so much, the value of that relationship that was built very locally kind of goes down. So I think because of some of these factors, the advent of the branded jewelers will see very strong tailwinds. Non-branded will struggle. That is what would happen in terms of the actors in the industry, in terms of products. More and more, so shift towards lower weight everyday products is going to keep on accelerating. As today, even in marriage, girls are asking if I should buy something so big which I'll never be able to wear again in future. So those are the kind of shifts that are going to happen in terms of at the industry level. Then your second part, which is about BlueStone, the definition of BlueStone, I would say, see, the mission and the objective would remain same, which is essentially to give very high quality design offerings, high quality, so to innovate on designs and to give high quality products to end customers, and to innovate in that bucket, which was largely which had mostly been ignored for very, very long time. How we do it, whether we do it online, whether we have our own factory, own design team, external design teams, etc., all those things will change. And like any business, it learns. A business that is not learning and will not be in business in long run, right? So our thoughts change, our operating methodologies, etc., would change. But if something that has become even firmer in last 10 years, that is that there is a space, there is a gap. What industry is offering and what consumers want is significantly different. There is an opportunity.
There's an opportunity there. Last question, and we would like Gaurav to give the advice to young budding entrepreneurs who are planning to launch a D2C brand, particularly in high value categories. What is the advice that Gaurav gives?
See, high value. Okay, so start only online when you're especially in, let's say, maybe first 1 to 2 years or so, as when you're iterating on the product. So get to the right product market fit. But if it's high value, there's a high likelihood that Omni is going to be very, very important for you. And I said high likelihood, to each its own. Everyone needs to discover their own journey. But this is what would come to my mind, right?
Start online, product market fit, and Omni, which is extremely important. Yeah,
in that order.
That's it.
Other way around, it can be disastrous.
That was very nice of you, very insightful, Gaurav. Thanks for sharing all these insights with us. And we look forward to connecting to you in the near future. Thank you very much.
Lovely talking to you. Bye.